Monsieur Clark, puis Phil Bennion.
Thank you, Madam President. There is a big problem with talking about asbestos because, like a lot of substances, it's got three different forms. There are blue and brown asbestos and white asbestos. Blue and brown asbestos are both fibrous silicates of iron. That's very deadly. If particles of that lodge in the lungs, they're there permanently forever. They're there virtually forever, and they cause death in the long run. It is a very serious complaint indeed. However, white asbestos is silicates of magnesium. It's dug out of the ground in the same place you find talcum powder. It is harmless. Particles of it which lodge in the lungs degrade very quickly in about 2 weeks, and there's no lasting effect upon those who ingest those particles. It has arisen, this confusion, because of a report in 1997 where Professor Julian Petto makes an elementary statistical error. He notes that 90% of all asbestos use is white, and he simply assumes that therefore 90% of all asbestos deaths are due to white asbestos. But that is not the case. Later than that, there was the British government's Health and Safety Executive Meldrum Review of fibrotoxicology, and that identifies no measurable health risk from asbestos cement. And in a later report, 2006, they show on a very useful chart that the risk from blue and brown asbestos is very high, whereas that from white asbestos is virtually insignificant. Unfortunately, the campaign to, demonize white asbestos is driven by a very strong commercial lobby, the International Ban Asbestos Secretariat, which is led by a lady called Laurie Kazan Alan, who is the sister of the head of a partner in a law firm, Kazan Law Firm in Oakland, California, which has earned millions of dollars, from asbestos litigation. I understand that the rapporteur has been talking to her. There is no problem with white asbestos. Chrysolite, the magnesium silicate form, is indeed harmless, and it has been included in all the litigation which should properly belong only to brown and blue asbestos. Now, if this goes ahead and becomes law, the elimination of all asbestos everywhere of whatever form, you have enormous implications. You have a lot of people making a great deal of money out of it, the lawyers, the medical profession, the construction industry, to name just a few. On the other hand, the downside are enormous. The cost of removing all types of asbestos from everywhere is going to run into hundreds of billions of pounds. It will be a body blow to EU economies, which are already struggling. Among the hardest hit will be farmers, who have huge numbers of asbestos buildings everywhere. They'll be bankrupted. And if this report goes through, you can expect a great deal of trouble from the farming lobby. There are also, of course, further costs, because if you remove the asbestos...
Can I ask you to conclude, dear colleague?
Madam, yes. There are enormous further costs, because if you remove the asbestos, somehow you've got to get rid of it, which presumably means landfill, and then, of course, you've got to replace it with an alternative material, which is not yet to hand. This report, Madam Chairman, must not go through in its present form.